So here we are on episode 7, I believe, of Therapists in Conversation. And tonight we're going to be discussing assumptions, perceptions, and expectations. Things that can make you go ape, whether you like it or not. Because there's a lot at the moment of sweeping generalisations, and they're not only going under the carpet, they're actually all over our rooms. Angela, we'll start with you because I know you love a sweeping generalization.
I do. They're my favourite thing ever. Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's really been kind of my personal bugbear over the last few weeks. Is this constant? Everybody's in the same situation. We're all singing from the same hymn sheet, or we're all in the same boat, and it's that huge assumption that just because I'm in this situation, you must be too. And I'm not convinced that that's ever the case, but I'm happy to be told otherwise.
Do we think it's a tacit agreement with that with other people that is because they don't want to be seen to be actually having a productive time during this situation we find ourselves in?
I'm wondering, it's bringing in the E from our A.P.E title, that the expectations are that clearly it's a horrible time in the world, but not everyone's going through it in the same way. And we've all got different coping strategies. We've all got different coping mechanisms. And some people are making huge strides forward in their lives, in their careers, in their relationships. Others aren't. And it is just that case of we're all unique, we're all individuals. And I think it's okay to be okay, just like it's okay to not be okay.
Susan, what do you think?
I have to say that the first lockdown compared to the second, I think the first lockdown was very much a learning curve. So in a way, I think people either found it a lot more difficult to all of a sudden be placed into a situation where they're all almost imprisoned, if you like. You know, you couldn't go out, you couldn't talk to people. Whereas the second time round, I think people have been better set up. So they've had ideas of, okay, well, I know what the first one was like. I know now what to expect. I've got a better plan for the second phase. And speaking to different people, they're finding the second phase is easier than the first one. But the original lockdown, I think a lot of us only thought it was just going to be for a few weeks. We didn't realise it was going to be for a few months. And I think it changed a lot of people's lives in many, many different ways. Some people had better coping mechanisms than other people. Some people just could not cope at all. And some people are finding the second phase is still as bad as the first phase. They're still struggling to get through each day. But I think it depends on the individual, whether you're used to being on your own, whether you're used to using your time. Some people have huge lists to get things done. Some people have nothing to do all day. And I think it's finding your way through each day, being able to communicate with other people, because again, a lot of people living on their own, they may not be able to call somebody and say, I'm not having a good day today. So I think people are finding it challenging, and some people are enjoying it. And I think some people are doing very well with the time, getting lots of their own things done, and some people are dreading each day.
Yeah, and at least this time we didn't actually run out of toilet rolls and pasta.
Yeah.
But it's interesting from that concept, because I've heard other people that have said that they coped through the first one, and they were all the copers, and now the second one's come along, and obviously we're in different places, so it's different periods. Not everywhere in the UK is in lockdown, and it's that understanding where everything is. But there's a lot of people who coped the first time around, and it's got to that point now they're in overwhelm, they've had enough, and they're not coping in the same way. But it's interesting as well, you were saying that whole, you can't go out, you can't talk to people and everything else.
Mm.
I wish that was the case. So yes, I couldn't go out, but I was on back-to-back Zoom calls, and I do live on my own, so I am on my own as well. And it is that concept that actually I was in like that peace of mind of, actually, can I just have a day off because I've had enough of talking to people? So it is that way, that it's not everybody.
Yeah,
And
I think also IT. I think if you're not used to IT, you're not used to Zoom calls, to your phone, for instance. And there's definitely two people that come to mind that never used to have to use WhatsApp or use Zoom or Teams, and they were completely lost. So I think all of a sudden this just all came on us. You know, the first time round, we didn't really have any plans of, okay, how are we going to go into this, and obviously for how long it was going to last for. And I think people just had to find a way of coping, and one of them was IT. And if it's anything like me, when my server goes down, well, my laptop, all I want to do is just frisbee it over the garden, because as soon as you lose contact, you're then looking at a laptop thinking, well, why aren't you working now? I can't talk to anyone, I can't reach to anyone. So I think IT has definitely been a main cause of help, but also extra stress.
So Dave, what about the two instances, whatever is the first or the second, there's still a crucible effect that goes on. Yeah. And the first one would have been the bigger shock, more or less, for some people, because as Susan said, a lot of people only thought it was going to be for a couple of weeks.
That's what we were told, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm more cynical than that, but
yeah, but as a general populace, we tend to take our cognitive social actions from the mass messagings that we're given from positions of authority. And that works on the basis that the message is trusted, it's understood, and it's believed. It's called a tub rating, and it's the art of communication, right? If we don't trust the message, or we don't understand why the message is what it is, or we don't believe what we're being told, we won't pay any attention to it. Right? That's just human interaction with messaging.
Which is possibly why we ended up with a kind of quadrophenia moment at the beaches in Bournemouth.
Exactly. Because when the politicians came out and they said, right, we're going to have a really short lockdown, we're going to knock this on the head, despite the fact that we were 2 weeks behind everywhere else. Bear in mind, we're an island, so there is distance between everywhere else. That 2 week period of learning didn't appear to be getting any lessons in place. There was no organizational structure, there was nothing put in. So people didn't understand why the messaging was coming across, that we're going to do exactly the same as what was done 2 weeks ago somewhere else when they've had it already hit and we've not done anything. So we don't trust that the message we're being given is right, because what we're seeing doesn't make sense. We don't understand why we're being told what we're being told. Straight away, we don't believe it. And we were given a time frame that just kept getting extended by 3 weeks every time. So ultimately, when they say, right, okay, we'll take it off and we'll come back out, they've done nothing to deal with the virus but contain people. The virus doesn't go away and say, okay, that's it, you're not around, so I'll die. This thing sits there and waits for you because all it wants to do is live.
Well, that's all it's programmed to do. That's what viruses do.
Right. So you've got a biological entity that wants to live, and in order to live, it's got to be in our lungs. And a system that says, right, we're going to move everybody away from it and keep them safe. But we're not going to do anything with the virus who's already there, despite the fact in countries where we've seen it be dealt with, they've had a better outcome because they went out, they deep cleaned anything that could move and couldn't move. We did nothing. We just moved people away from it and said, stay away from it. It will die if you stay away.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the muppetry that was going on in some of the situations.
And how much of that is our perception of the people in charge, of the different governments around the world? And it is the perceptions, isn't it? So So how much of that is it the governments or whoever it is that's giving the messaging? How much of it is the media, and how much of it is which filter we're putting on it when we receive the information?
And it's going to be a combination of all of it, because we can't separate the information once it hits the brain. You know what it is?
Do you want to come off mute? And
yeah, I'm just listening. I think with Angela as well, I think I've had an amazing year in terms of learning curve for me. I mean, I'm a full-time mum, but also therapies I work from home. So I couldn't do my therapies from home. I've been very busy with my kids. And people will say to me, oh, poor you, you know, you've been having, I said, well, I can go out. I've been going out for walks every day, which is incredible compared to where I come from in Spain, which is absolutely locked down. Literally, you couldn't go out at all outside. Here, we've been able to go out. So I've been enjoying the walks in the first lockdown. And then I've been meeting people on Zoom. I think I connected with Leslie, the first person ever on LinkedIn ever done that. I felt like I did a leap of faith doing, right, I'm going to connect with that person because I liked her. And then from that on, this opened up another door, and I felt incredibly inspired by the people I have met on Zoom and on calls that I have done. I've never been on Zoom before, so I've learned to do Zoom. I've learned to do a presentation on Zoom. I have done presentations now, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is hell, but it's great. Like it's a big stepping stone for me, especially when I know I have my daughter at the background sometimes. But again, I have heard situations have been very difficult, but it's almost like you feel bad for saying, "No, she's been great for me." Do you know? Like you almost want to say, "Well, I hear you, but how about can we flip the coin a little bit, you know? And what are you grateful for today? You're getting up to another." I mean, in March or April, it was so sunny. I couldn't believe it, how wonderful the weather was. And I was like, this is lovely. Can we go out to the park, get some fresh air, got a roof on the table, we've got a bit of food. So it's been a big, stepping curve learning for me, for sure. And I've been in my own bubble, I'm asking me, I don't really watch the news. And I think I feel sad in a way that health has come down to wearing masks and hand sanitizers. I wish you could hear more about proper health, taking your vitamin D, zinc, anything else than just mask and hand sanitizers. I feel that it's quite sad that we've lived with viruses through our history in our lives, and suddenly it seems like it's just nothing else, where we should be looking after our immune systems and our mindset, our whole
building that resilience that has been taken out for generations. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned, Angela, was the phrase, we're all in the same boat. We might all be in the same storm, and we might
all in different boats.
But it's all different boats because, like you say, the variables and coping strategies and perceptions of how we engage and everything else are totally individual. And anyone who understands being in boats knows that the way a tanker deals with a storm is different to the way a dinghy is going to deal with a storm.
Absolutely.
And if we don't let people be their own boat in this storm, and we try those generalizations, we are going to make the belittling of their own experience so big that we will have a huge psychological and emotional collapse when the storm clears. And we don't have enough professionals to deal with 66 million people collapsing.
But this is it. It's about the expectations as well, because when we've got this pile of propaganda coming at us from this box in the corner of the room that we actually trust more than anything else, because we'll look at that and a lot of the time, many people believe what comes out of that thing as total truth, fact, when many of us also know that it's being manipulated.
There is an agenda behind.
There's an agenda behind it. There's an agenda behind every communication, let's face it. but it's also got to do with this expectation of that we're, it's going to come okay, it's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. We're going to get back to normal. Why on earth would you want to go back to something that brought this on?
Precisely.
One of the things that A.P.E said back in March was the world has gone into a state of grieving. We are grieving the way we lived and the systems that we had in place. Think back to November, December last year. How many people were saying about systems and processes, these don't really work, but we haven't got time to change them. We've just got to get through the day. So we just did what we've always done. Well, 2020 gave us time to actually reevaluate all of those processes and those systems. And we had an opportunity, instead of saying, let's go and lie down with what's died, we can actually go, right, these bits work, these bits don't. So let's leave the bits that don't work, and we know they don't work, where they are, find out what the gaps are, and then rebuild the systems with those gaps so that things do work.
But we still continue to do the thing that Einstein told us we shouldn't be doing, and that is trying to solve today's problems with yesterday's answers.
Yeah.
Whereas we should be looking at tomorrow's answers for today's problems.
Yeah. And that's where I think the year has, in essence, been a missed opportunity. Now, I know that's a grand statement. That's a sweeping statement.
And I think so. Some organisations and some fields and areas have totally embraced the new technology, the new ways of working, and all of this good stuff that's coming through. But there's still a lot of companies and organisations potentially run by the old guard who are used to things a certain way, that are definitely wanting the old normal to come back, who are trying to force any progress to go back to the way it was before and have everybody back in the office and doing the same processes that weren't working. And they've proven the fact that their staff can comfortably work from home, or they can comfortably do Zoom calls and not have to travel everywhere, but they don't like that new idea. They were comfortable with what was before.
Yeah.
Well, they're still having to pay rent on the offices that the staff aren't in anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, as has already been said, it's that perception of, what can be done. And if you don't have a perception that you can change anything because you've never changed anything, then you're not going to have a perception that this is a positive opportunity. And this is where, as a coach, I've spent most of this year going, look at the opportunity that this is giving you. You've got so much time where you can actually get change in place, test it while all this is going on. Because if you can work it in this environment,
then you can work it in any environment.
You can work it anywhere, And epidemiologists have been saying for 5 years, the first big pandemic, of which they are now saying coronavirus is that category, is only the first what's coming.
Because we're continuing to do it now. We've killed off every bacteria known to man.
Yeah.
Domestos is the worst product on the planet.
We've gone one better than Domestos. We really have. And by doing that, our immune systems have got lazy.
Yeah.
They don't work the same way anymore. We might as well be really honestly walking about in a bubble in those little naughty suit things going on.
Yeah.
We won't be able to talk to each other or touch each other.
I like the idea of the big Zorb bubble, so they could be quite good fun to get down the street.
Well, that keeps your social distance as well, doesn't it?
A problem.
Just give me a hill.
It's exercise because you've got to keep your little hamster in your wheel.
Exactly.
Your social distancing is covered. Jobs are good.
Oh,
you don't have to wear a mask.
In there to filter the air you've got to breathe. Dragon's Den, here we come.
Now that's my expectation for 2021 sorted.
I'm just wondering, do you think that the increase in electric cars is synchronicitous, or actually they've scratched their heads and said, oh dear, fossil fuels are going out of fashion really fast now? Or is it Elon Musk that's driving it all from the Tesla castle?
That was a big change in topic, but okay.
That's a segue.
Shares are going
That's a
up.
segue.
Yeah, I much prefer the segues.
You might have interesting segues.
I'm noticing.
I don't know whether it's coincidence in timing, but we've been told about fossil fuels diminishing for decades. I think it was the very end of last week that it was announced that if the plan to switch to electric cars actually realised, the national grid would collapse within a day or so, because we haven't got enough electricity to fuel those vehicles. And where do we think that electricity is going to be generated?
Well, surely that's what the smart motorways are for. And by the way, can we not put solar panels on the roofs
Of the cars, they're a bit too heavy.
Are they? Well, actually, there was.
So are we going to ramp up the power stations that are burning coal to get
to
more
produce the electricity to go into the electric cars? So the pollution that we save in the cities where the cars are is now just moved to the power stations.
Then you've just explained why the electric cars are being put out by all of the car companies. See, agendas for everything.
Not necessarily, because we've got lots of wind power up here.
This is true. Well, it's got a lot to do with the diet. But
bearing in mind, it is rumoured that Mercedes-Benz and Daimler have a pattern, and it's only rumoured, have a pattern for a water-powered
Actually,
car.
It's not a rumour. It's true. It was on when I used to watch that programme with that
Tomorrow's
guy,
World.
Clarkson. No, Jeremy Clarkson. He was actually driving one, and the only thing that came out of the other end of that car was water. Was actually hydrogen atoms. So basically, it's there, and the reason that they bought it was so it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. And this is what manufacturers have been doing, and it's one of the first pieces of business advice I was ever given. If you want to spend a fortune trying to make something happen, spend your life and never get anywhere, go for it. If you've got something that a competitor does not want to happen, sell it to them, because they will make sure that you get paid and that idea doesn't happen. And that's what happens.
A coping strategy for you. It will actually allow you to keep making money at a time like this.
Well, come up with some random ideas.
Yeah, come up with random ideas.
Yeah. British Coal did it.
Yeah, I know, but basically industrialization was the beginning of the end for a lot of stuff, because that's where we started getting real bad problems with our health, because everybody was coming from the country and going into the city. Well, not everybody, but most people.
See, there was a sweeping generalisation.
Yes, I got there before you.
That's why the countryside's empty, and that's why everyone in the city is being told, go out and get free clean air.
This is what's happening in Japan at the moment, and Japan is one of the healthiest nations in the world. I think the top one is actually Spain, thanks to Pointless. I know that from yesterday. But you get your knowledge where you get your knowledge. So
wherever it comes from.
Yeah, as long as it's good. So, but in Japan, there are so many young people heading to the cities that the cultural and historical ways of living and the interesting things that would be handy when the sun flares up and the electricity goes down are being lost.
Yeah.
So then on the flip side of that, with the advent of the pandemic and the advent of working from home, do we really have that necessity to be in the city? Do we have that necessity to work in crowded populations on crowded public transport? Or can we now move out into countryside locations and actually have larger homes in a more comfortable environment and not have to sit on a train for up to 2 hours a day each way.
This is where we get our problem now, because we now have, of course, the nature deficit disorder, which is an allergy to being out in nature because it's frightening and they don't understand it.
And
not everyone wants to
believe it.
do it.
Hmm.
So, quite a few
it's that
people,
comfort zone, isn't it?
people are used to the 9 to 5, Monday to Fridays. They're used to working full time in an office. They're used to the travel. They don't want to be at home with the children or with the rest of the family. They want to be apart, and it's interesting speaking to people, and they either have set ways or they've had enough of being at home now and they want to change the scenery. They want to go and see their colleagues at work and just catch up with normality as they used to remember it. For some people, it's such a huge change, and not everyone is comfortable working at home. And that's, of course, with people that still got their jobs. So many people, bless them, have lost their jobs.
And also we've got the increase in psychologies and like
And abuses as well.
yeah.
And let's not put too fine a point on it. For millions of people in this country, going to work was the safety net.
Yeah, that was another thing I meant by the crucible, because it really concentrates whatever emotions are going on at this time.
Yeah, I mean, divorce lawyers are making a mint.
I missed my chance to train in that area, right?
I think it's
everyone wants legal
educating
help
people,
now.
right? It's educating people and changing paradigms, how to do things, even when it comes to health, right? I mean, everybody's used to going and get fixed, get something out the dog, get something. How about it's a period where I found myself where I did deeper healing and on a lot of things personally, not only in my relationship with my husband, because we had to live together every day. He used to go away and come back. So I was new as well. Same with my kids, and same with a lot of things I never thought that had come to the surface to heal, you know. So when you're in a space environment where everything is coming up and you're thinking, what am I going to do with that and with this and that? So maybe I'm having coping strategies that I do have that I use, and I do help others to use that, because the thing is knowing how to use those coping strategies and use it to help yourself to deal with those things better than not, right? And then I suppose my sister is a psychologist, and she in Spain, she used to go to places, and Latin people are very much used to touch. So it's very difficult for them not to interact personally, right? I miss also as a person hugging people or touching people, and that's very not natural for a human being, really, not to be touched. So to learn to do that also it's not easy. I think there are other things that you can learn as perhaps educating and setting new habits, you know, of doing things one step at a time.
Can I ask, as an open question, do you think that education, that perception of how we can open up that self-awareness, because we need that self-awareness to bring things to the surface in order for us to then heal as we need. The therapeutic, the mental health arena is the natural bedfellow for that learning, right? Do you think that it's the therapeutic community, the mental health arena, that needs to be coming to the fore and saying, let us help?
Well, that's exactly why I started this group.
And isn't that what we're all saying? We're just not necessarily being heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
as a whole sector. I have 5 people in a room. Great. We're all saying it. But there are it's estimated by UCAS that there are over 100,000 qualified therapeutic professionals in the UK of working age. 55,000 of them are affiliated to membership bodies. As 100,000 people saying, I'm qualified, let me help. Got to make more of a wave than what we've got at the moment.
There is a lot of misunderstanding and misinterpretation on what a lot of therapies are and what they can do for people. And that comes not just from the general public, but from other bodies as well. And there's, you know, there's also, I think, a little bit of generalizing here. There is a bit of an attitude with some people that some of the stuff that can get done is a bit woo-woo.
But woo-woo for the right person is the right
awesome.
treatment for the right person.
Exactly. And it's like horses for courses. There are some things that people will get out of one thing that they will not, you know, and even within therapies, if someone has gone for a therapy and just not gelled with the therapist, unfortunately, that means that they don't like the therapy a lot of the time. Not oh, I didn't know I didn't know you could do it that way. Or and basically it's like doctors as well. If you go into a doctor and you don't like the person who's sitting in front of you, you're not really going to get on with the treatment they're going to give you.
Yeah.
Because you know, you kind of go, no, I don't think they know what they're doing. Don't like them. No.
And then once that perception's built in, then everybody in the same kind of field is, oh, well, they must be the same.
Yeah, we generalize out.
Yeah. But
also it's the 2 meter distance. It's very hard to give a reflexology or a massage with a two meter distance, you know. It just doesn't quite.
You can always try.
But then when you then draw the line to mental health and the physical health, because, you know, there is a couple of people that I do treat, and they have said without me they would have fallen to pieces over the last few months. So
the thing with that, Susan, is the fact that when it's happening with therapists en masse, whatever you're doing, it's the connection, because people feel safe and able to talk to you, and they will be able to actually lift whatever it is out of themselves and put it right in front of the table. They have the opportunity to do so. A lot of them, for a lot of times, will hold on to some of it at least. But the opportunity is there. And just knowing that can sometimes be enough of a comfort to get you through another day.
And one of the things that we've noticed, we noticed it probably the end of last year, beginning of this, is the public contact point with directories and listings for therapists is invariably a photograph and a biography. And how do you ever connect on a level that says, this is somebody I want to spend time with and open up to, if you've only seen a photograph and read a biography that might have been written 4 or 5 years ago?
Or by someone else for them.
Or by somebody else for them, right? So one of the things that we've started to do is actually invite the professionals we affiliate with to record a video introduction. So you get to hear their voice, you get to see the body language, you get to understand a little bit more than you can from a still photograph biography. And what we're seeing is people are actually connecting to people.
Yes, because that's what happens. It's like the rule of business. People don't buy things, they buy people. And if someone likes you or has an idea that you're approachable, they're more likely to find what you're putting out there as acceptable and able to find some part of it that fits for them. But again, we've got the dogmatic situation that goes on, where they also have their peers telling them, you don't want to do that, that's crap.
Yeah, I've been there.
That's just, you don't want to do that. That's, what do you want to waste your money on that for? What do you want to do that for? You know, and that is another thing, because there's an embarrassment and a shame that gets attached to it if they are seen as being less than in someone else's eyes. And that can be just as much. Sometimes that's got to do with the person who's saying that having a fear themselves or an insecurity themselves about not being able to go forward and ask for help that way. But
so you're talking more about the people that are reaching out for help rather than the people that are actually putting themselves out there to help.
Yeah, I'm talking about people who want to have help, you know. And the other thing is that the other reason that this group was incepted was because to show that we're not all in competition with one another. We're actually quite happy to turn around and say, do you know what it sounds like you might need to go to someone else that I know is going to be good for you, because they'll be able to do something better than I can for you.
It's that complementary word, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's actually
a safety net. It should be a safety net.
To tell you the truth, I prefer that word to alternative.
Me too.
Because alternative is not a choice. Alternative is you either
something
have that
different.
Whereas complementary is an adjunct to. It can be an adjunct to.
Yeah, it works alongside
your medical practitioners, your doctors, your nurses, your, you know,
when I was learning to become a coach, I spent time in the States with Native Americans. And one of the things that they taught me was everything that the Western civilization has come up with as an alternative and complementary medicines and all of this is actually the original.
Yeah.
The chemical stuff is what should be the alternative and the support for the natural.
Absolutely.
And we've got it round the wrong way, right? And I won't use the way it was described, but we've switched the priority and we are out of balance as a result.
The reason that we did that is because we can have one pill to cure the ill. Unfortunately, we need to take a ton of pills to cure the ills that pill gave us.
You know, my great-grandfather was from Colombia. He was a botanist. So doctors will go to him to ask him what plants we'll use. And he was well popular, you know, so I loved that. And I grew up in Colombia where everything was plants. Let's just use rosemary. Let's just use lavender. Let's just use that. And then, yeah, as you say, we have lost touch with nature, with plants, to being grounded. We're on our heads, too busy, way too busy. We need to get out of the way. I've been loving having people now. I've been doing reflexology for the elderly, and I love it. I think these people are so grateful for the touch, for the conversation, for the connection. We all long in human connection, whether it's a heart or touch, or I mean, I love feet. I mean, people say I'm crazy, but I love feet. I love giving massage. I read feet, I sense feet, the whole lot. But it's fascinating. And I think, it's just that connection that we can get maybe even on Zoom with people like yourselves that could say maybe there's an energy kind of energetic, being, so we can feel it that way.
Something that just struck me with what you were just saying, Alexandra, is everything that you just went through, it connects on either a psychological point, physical point, or an emotional point. They love the contact. They love the conversation. They love the sense that they get from it.
Absolutely.
And those 3 points are the 3 serial connections of the human being.
Yeah.
And then you have the other one.
Emotional and physical.
Yeah, go for 4 and add your spiritual, and then you've got the full lot, right?
Right. But the spiritual is that connection to the rest of the world around us, right? So when you've got those 4 things, the 3 of the human and the connection to the planet, all of a sudden, we're starting to sound a little bit like Aborigines.
Yeah.
Native peoples who connect to the land, who understand the way nature helps them. And there is balance in that.
We actually are. It's one of the things that when it's said to me about shamanism that we are not an indigenous culture, Of course we're an Indigenous culture. We were born here.
We're organic.
Wherever you're born, you're Indigenous.
We're organic. We are part of the earth.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's
So,
why we're
you
so
know,
in tune, connected.
And although, yes, in the West, we have dissociated this civilization wedge, this wedge of civilization that came in and brought this abyss between being an Indigenous person who lived with what was going on around us, not on top of or trying to control what was going on around us. But we've still got all this knowledge that's there if we would just look at it. I mean, there was an article on my favourite little thing the other day there about mindfulness and how some psychologists in America were having a hairy fit and dying baldy over the fact that mindfulness was getting so popular. And there was absolutely no evidence, there was no factual evidence or experiments done on meditation or mindfulness that would tell you, excuse me.
Is that because there's no dollar value to it when it comes to America, as you mentioned, America?
Yeah, well, actually, my first take on it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but I thought there's a couple of guys that are worried about their jobs.
Okay.
Because people are using mindfulness and they're actually getting such a benefit out of it. They're not actually having to go and seek out psychologists to the extent that they would. And we know in America that's like, you know, the second pastime after football. And there's a generalization for you.
I was just about to say that's a bit sweeping.
I know. But it's more to do with the fact that there's a whole continent out there that has been using, and mindfulness comes from Buddhism. It's lifted right out of the roots of Buddhism. But being present, being actually in your body, in your space, connected to what's around you, and understanding that time is a construct and you can actually therefore deal with it a lot better. One of my bugbears is the word cope. Hate it. Can't stand it.
I'm going to use it more now.
Yes, I know you will.
Now we know which is the biggest red button. Let's go for it.
Yeah, well, my boss used to say that to me. He said, "You're coping well," and don't even say that to me.
I think one of the common things I was picking up in that little bit of chat was the fact that balance is so important and grounding is so important. And I know from a kinesiology perspective, we start from balancing the body, and it is about balance. And I think that is such a key thing. But it was lovely to hear that I think just about everybody else here mentioned balance and a couple of groundings in there as well, which is fantastic.
And where we've gone wrong is we've moved away from balance to control. And the two are at either end of a seesaw. You know, if they come closer together,
is balance not the bit in the middle?
That's the focus. But just for our American viewers, because I'm sure at one point we're going to have some, that's a teeter-totter.
You what now?
A teeter-totter.
Oh, rather than a seesaw, right?
Seesaw is a teeter-totter. I thought that was a potato thing.
Yeah, that confused me there. Thanks for that. That's my new learning for the day.
I came here for a reason.
We've got pointless and we've got teeter-totters. There we go. Sorted.
Job done.
Yeah. I had to make the connection, and I was thinking to myself, oh, she meant seesaw. All right then. Okay. That explains a lot. But
here endeth the lesson.
Yeah, it is. It's true. What we are now seeing, because we've got such an imbalance in this year of people running about like headless chickens with nowhere to go, bumping up against one another and falling over and trying to get their point across and trying to tell each other how it's going to work or how it's not going to work. That imbalance has actually lit up the idea that we can have balance. We can get harmony. We can get resonance. We can actually start to heal ourselves, especially when we start asking the people who have been working on it for a long time already. Then there are thousands of us out there, hundreds of thousands, millions of us out there throughout the earth. We're all over the place. We're everywhere. Bit like a virus, really. But
are we going to be a healthy virus coming in and
Yes,
mopping up
absolutely. Healthy balance.
mopping up the
Like,
challenges?
we're the
Yeah.
antivirus. We're the antivirus. We're that. We're the antiviral virologists. So yeah, but I think that we have to start looking in. We've been given, like Dave said earlier on, we've been given this breathing space this year. And we're now understanding how important it is to be able to get out and be in the fresh air, because we've been limited to how much of that we can get. And although we knew it was always there, and we've got plenty of time to go there, you know, it's like exploring your own country. You'll go off to all points everywhere else in the world and then never know what's going on in your own country. But now we have to explore the country of our souls. We have to explore the country of our being. And we have to understand where the beauty spots are and where the parts are that we could do with not building houses on.
Well, we don't have to. We've been given the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And it's a choice for each and every one of us to make that decision. Are we going to take that opportunity to go and use the breathing space and look inwards to see what feeds our souls and what our zones of genius are and what those beauty spots are? Or are we just going to sit back and hide in a corner? Or are we going to sit there and hope and pray for our old normal to come back again? And it's a choice, and we've all got that choice to make.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the key thing. It's I've not got someone telling me that I've got to wait for the normal, and I've not got someone telling me I've got to do this, that, and the next thing. That's the gift that I've got for me, is I can choose, am I going to use this breathing space right now to improve my life or not?
Well, I mean, one of the things I'm really glad that you kind of pulled that, Angela, because it's something that Siobhan and I have been saying almost all year. When the first lockdown was put on, it's like Mother Nature gave the teenagers that our species is on the planet a bit of a grounding. Gave us a slap, sent us to our room, and cleaned up some of our mess. Okay? The air got better, sea quality got better. We were grounded. We weren't messing up the house. Right? But like most teenagers, when they're grounded, at some point they kick against the door and they go, no, I'm going out. And I think the second lockdown is Mother Nature actually going, no, you're not ready yet. You haven't worked this out. So go back into your room and think about what it is that you've done. Think about yourself for 1 second in context to everybody else. And I think that's the biggest opportunity that the planet has actually given us as a species. And I hope that as a sector, the therapeutic community can actually come together and go, hey guys, this is the opportunity for us to support you in getting that self-awareness.
We're the salve for the teenage angst.
I like that.
There's still those teenagers out there that are still just going to put their music on loud.
Of course there are.
Stomp around and not pay any attention.
Yeah, until they get to their 30s and go, whoa, what just happened?
How did I get here?
So that's what I say. So we as a therapy community have just got to be patient and let them know that we're here when they're ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is that it could be that Mother Earth herself, the planet itself is in its teenage years and is having a total stroke.
It's the acne phase.
Yes. Erupting volcanoes, you know.
That's it. The virus is just a series of plukes. For the non-Scots, that's spots.
For those across the pond, zits. But yeah, I mean, all joking aside, this is actually, it's caused a lot of thought to be thought and time to be taken, but it's also caused a lot of distress,
Mm.
mainly because we don't have people who are clear and concise and actually stable in their communications. And that's actually why they were put in the position that they're in, is because they were supposed to be able to do those three things and more. But actually, as a people, as a species, we are aware of the situation and what we can do and what we're not doing to stop things like this from happening. But we still need our scientific communities to stop disagreeing with one another and to find common ground. And we need our governments to actually be clear. We need clarity, we need balance, and we need to actually know what's going to be the case, so that our expectations, our presumptions, and our assumptions don't go totally ape on us.
And again, I think that trust, understanding, believability in the communication that comes out is so critical now more than probably ever before.
And unfortunately, even though it is now more critical, it is more doubted than ever before.
Yeah, yeah. And also comes of self-responsibility, you know, as well, because I feel that there's a lot of struggles in, I have my son in secondary school, a lot of kids suffering from anxiety and stress at that age. And it's down to the parents, you know. My son, I think there's a lot of thrive on fear, you know, and I don't like that. I feel that we have to learn, step away from that, really, because it feels like fear is actually lowering our immune systems, our feeling like somebody's going to catch us or kill us out there. I mean, even when I go to some places we have to take cash, it's almost like they don't want to touch your hand, like you got a plague or something, you know, and we cannot live like that. You know, I think we have to start learning to live in some sort of hope or joy, or find gratitude in the smaller things, because otherwise fear is going to kill us all, really, before the virus does, to be honest.
Because let's face it, those germs on that money was one of the biggest germ carriers ever, always, from the time it was developed.
Yeah, so there's no difference.
There's no difference. There are things out there, people are still dying of things, they're still getting hit by buses and cars, they're still falling off things, they're still got heart attacks, we've still got obesity, we've still got all the other things that are killing people. And the only thing we're paying attention to is this one thing, because it's the new kid on the block.
I know, and it's unfortunately, I already know 2 people that have died of cancer because they couldn't get treatments this year. You know, why is that not advertised? I don't understand.
I'm hearing a lot of that at the moment from different friends. One of whom has lymphoma, and she can't get the painkillers that she needs because it's been deemed unnecessary treatment, and she's in constant pain. And and then there's the guy who is on benefits and had to go to the dentist for a filling, and the dentist did it for £250 and refused to do it unless he paid £250.
Whoa,
gosh, that's harsh.
And like most crises, when people automatically fall into that survival mode, we see the best, but we also see the worst of everybody. And unfortunately, without the work having been done on breaking down those stereotypes about therapeutic support, we're back up against a tidal wave. And we're, as a sector, we should be surfing that tidal wave, not being kind of battered by it, because we haven't for 40 years actually challenged and demonstrated the benefit of therapeutic interaction.
And that's possibly why so many of us have gone out of business, because the way that the restrictions on what we can do, who we can see, who we can't see, how we can see them, and how we can't see them, has been so rigidly applied in the wrong places at the wrong time, as well as the right
Great.
places at the right time.
Yeah.
And also varying across the 4 nations as well.
Yes,
So you,
uh-huh.
you do have the situation that I believe when England was out of their lockdown, mobile therapy was allowed. In Scotland, it's not.
Yeah.
So my contacts who have got therapy businesses, but they're mobile, haven't been able to work since March.
Mm.
But then people that have got their own treatment room are able to do so.
Yeah.
So, and it's such a shame.
Yeah.
But we need to work, as you said, Dave, we need to figure out how to band together and come out swinging, saying, we are here, use our services, use our skills, we want to help.
Take the
Absolutely.
bottlenecks off, understand that qualified is qualified, understand experience is experience, and understand that this is essential working.
That's
Yeah.
the word. The government,
And we need to
the
learn
top
how to live with it. We need to learn how to live with this virus, because there's going to be another, there's going to be another, and there's going to be another. And when we do get back to some normality after this, how much work is there going to be needed by therapists? Because the aftermath is huge. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal amount of people that are going to need help, mentally and physically supported, to even get back to normal, if there is a normal. And
Find
the
a balance.
devastation of what they've gone
let's
through.
say to find balance.
Yeah, find strategies to keep the balance and
Well,
to keep us on the up.
Normal.
Well, on that point about the mental health support that's going to be needed as a result of this, it's probably prudent to declare an interest, because A.P.E published in the summer a framework. We've made it available for free to anyone in the NHS to promote within the NHS, or the post-trauma care response for those professionals that are working on the front line. That supports the therapeutic professionals to engage with the NHS in a way that hasn't been done before, but keeps all the safeguards in place. And that's the only practical program that's been made available from the therapeutic sector across the country. And we've made it available free for any part of the NHS to go, here is a way that we can get therapeutic professionals in front of the workers that are on the front line of this in a safe way, and make sure that they can cope emotionally and psychologically with what they are facing. Now, that, I would suggest, is a benchmark for how the therapeutic community can support mental health moving forward, without the bottlenecks, without all of the jumping through hoops and everything else that goes on out there at the moment.
It's also a case of recognising from the government down, from the top echelons down, that therapies and therapists are actually necessary.
Yeah.
We are a necessary and very valuable resource.
Right now, we are the gold dust. This sector is the gold dust for the future survival of emotional well-being and psychological well-being. And if it's not harvested now, it ain't going to be able to do its job. And there will be a collapse. There'll be a collapse of everyone that's dealing with the trauma now. There'll be a collapse of everyone that can't get the support from what's already collapsed in front of them, and so on and so forth. And all of the other systems collapse after that. And if we're not careful as a sector, we will be the ones on the sidelines going, we were here, but you didn't come and talk to us. We need to be coming together, not standing on the sidelines, but invading the pitch and saying, guys, it's time you activated and you mobilized the support system that is here. They're not coming and knocking on our doors, guys. We need to go kick their doors down now.
We need to
Otherwise, we're not going to be seen as the support system.
Yeah.
We're just going to be seen as people on the sidelines going, well, we're here, come and use us if you want to. No.
Yes, we need to get away from being the cheerleaders.
Correct.
And actually being part of the game.
Yeah.
From that analogy.
Grab the ball and run with it.
I don't do sports. You're confusing my poor little brain.
Well, you came up with cheerleaders. I mean,
I
come
know,
on.
but that's what it sounded like. It's the people on the sidelines. Give me the boat analogies. I can cope with boat analogies.
Okay.
No, that's okay.
We need to stop building the boats and start sailing them.
There we go. I can live with that one. I can cope with that one.
Okay, and in this ship of support and being, I'm going to close it down for tonight. Thank you, everybody, and let's see if we can get some balance going on and find that. Maybe that could be next month's topic, and we'll see what we can do. But let's see if we can find our balance, find our way, and allow our ears to filter out the stuff that makes us less than totally calm. Thank you, everyone, and good night.